Playing Godtear solo in our quest for tabletop immortality, that is the question that we're going to explore in this vlog. Being able to play it from a solo perspective. Now, there's two entry points to this. Being a skirmish game, being a miniatures-based game, having dice. I want to roll that with some friends. I want to have some friendly competition. I want to create some amazing tabletop memories. This is one of the reasons why I'm into wargaming, I'm into skirmish gaming, I'm into board games. I love the tactics, I love the miniatures, I love the narrative, but ultimately it's a social experience. I want to sit down with some friends, have some fun, and build that narrative. So in terms of playing solo, why would we want to play solo? And maybe there's this idea that something's worked out right now in the moment where you can't quite make it to the gaming club, or you're in a period where your work schedule is shifted for a bit and you're going to be rolling solo for a while. That's one perspective, and we'll explore it. But the main reason that I see solo in Godtear, and this is true of every wargaming system or skirmish-based system, but especially Godtear, given all of the amazing combos and things you want to explore, I view it as a training session. I view it as a let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. So in picking out 2 or 3 warbands and literally playing both sides, it's not the best analogy, but I think it's the closest one that I can find. Studying chess games or studying positions, playing both sides of Godtear lets you see those champions in action, lets you see some of those combos and reinforces it, lets you experiment with some of those combos. I would rather experiment and see on the table than necessarily try to do that with some of my friends who are very, very competitive. The difference between experimenting and playing solo with a combo versus the intellectual and tactica that we're building right now is you're linking yourself to the analog. There's a big difference in understanding something, listening to my vlogs, listening to other vlogs, reading blogs and forums, all important, all very, very important for developing ideas. I mean, that's essentially my secret weapon here on YouTube for a lot of wargaming systems, listening to ideas, seeing how things go and learning. But taking that down to the physical, taking that down to the analog tabletop, and now saying, let's put out the miniatures, let's put out the warbands, let's see what happens, let's see with positioning. What if I do this? What if I split this? What if I move here? How does that work? Just to get a general idea of things to be aware of situational awareness. Because often what will happen, so approaching solo play from the perspective of a self-trainer, self-refinement, self-discipline, self-simulation on the tabletop, it's one thing to be able to see it and play it. But as soon as you play against another person, where now there's a little bit of competition, we've got a little bit of spice, it's easy to forget certain tactics. Or it's easy in the moment to say, yes, look, my opponent moved here. Perfect. I'm going to blast him with this, and then I'm going to attack, and then I'm going to attack, and you get so caught up on that one point, literally that one point on the table, you miss another combo, or you miss something else. So being able to, I find, physically manage the models and move them and position them, I find that to be very, very helpful. So from that perspective, solo Godtear, yes. Now, what about an AI? What about fighting it out on the table, solo play? And I'm not talking about like a tabletop simulator with a friend, or playing remote, or exploring other options based on certain circumstances. I'm talking about you've got the table out and you're ready to play. There is a file on Board Game Geek where a Godtear enthusiast has set up a flowchart based on the dice, using the dice to generate warbands move forward. What do they target? What do they activate? What do they do? And I've used it. It's very interesting. I find it a lot of fun. It's never going to replace an opponent. That's true. It's going to miss a lot of things. That's true. That's not the point. The point is it randomizes things just enough that even when it makes, and it often does, not the best decision, I really enjoy that. I really, really enjoy that because it forces you to adapt, or it forces you to see things. Maybe it simulates mistakes that an opponent has made. it's never a replacement. Nothing is ever going to replace a person to play with. But in terms of solo play, for various reasons, maybe you're testing out combos, testing out warbands, and again, the usual, just a change in a schedule for a little while, there are options to still be in the game. And there are options to still help train yourself and move that tactica and that hobby perspective forward. So I'm going to turn over to you guys, fellow tier enthusiasts. Solo play. Yes, no, possible. Ways to explore it. Maybe even using an emulator of sorts, like a mythic emulator, to try and figure things out. What are some of those options so we can continue to be building and to refining our God tier tactica?